From fear to fulfillment. I had memories of a previous life from a very early age, and I realized instinctively that it was not wise to discuss such experiences with anyone. I was born in Italy in 1952, and I lived in a seaside town. My mother used to take me to a beach that was reached by passing through a strange concrete construction. We had to go up some narrow stairs, walk along an elevated large sort of corridor, and go down the other side onto the beach. The sides of this corridor had a parapet, above which was some barbed wire to prevent people from reaching more industrial constructions at a much lower level. I can't give a precise description of this place because I was too young. It was a sort of electric plant. Many years later, I asked my mother when it was demolished and she told me that it was in 1954, which means I was only 2 years old when I saw it. Every time we passed there, I felt in a strange state. I was very uneasy, yet at the same time I was somehow eager to go as the feeling was so intense and mesmerizing. The heat was great in summer because the sun fell directly on the concrete. When I passed there, I had a kind of film playing in my mind, images of a woman and a man running in the direction of the beach, she in front, the man behind at a short distance. She was dressed in dark colors and had long, curled hair. I knew they were running toward the seashore, escaping something, and that they were in serious danger. Somehow, and I can't explain how a girl less than 2 years old could know this, I was that woman and the place was North Africa. I also had recurring dreams or, rather, nightmares. One was of a grey sea and a wave that suddenly rose and submerged me. Sometimes I was on the beach, sometimes I was near the concrete pier, but the feeling was always of total panic, and I would wake up. The nightmares were still recurring when I was a teenager and, little by little, more details appeared, the landscape of a bleak beach, men in dark uniforms chasing us with guns, both me and my companion entering the water. I swam under to find protection from the bullets, but the waves became higher and pressed my head against the bottom of the pier until no space was left for me to breathe, and I drowned. I had a curious problem with my clothes. My mother sewed many of my clothes, not only because she had studied dressmaking but also because I needed long zippers that no ready-made dresses had. If I wore a sweater, she needed long zippers that no ready-made dresses had. If I wore a sweater, she had to help me by passing it over my head, keeping the collar far away from my face. Once, we went to a dressmaker, and my mother forgot to tell her of my problem. When the lady passed the dress over my head, I panicked and started crying and moving my arms frantically, unable to breathe. I used to go to the seaside in summer, and although I had learned to swim, I was always wary when lying on the sand, because I had the illogical fear that a wave might suddenly come up and submerge me. For this reason, I never lay with my back to the sea. On one occasion, when I was approximately 18, I was lying closer to the sea than I normally did, and a much longer wave reached the towel of a friend. She laughed, I was frozen with terror. At 19, I enrolled at the university. One day, during the lunch break, I was in the large faculty library. It was November and the weather was unusually mild, so the windows were open. The tables were very large, with a dark surface covered by a sheet of glass that reflected the images. Suddenly, while my mind was elsewhere and I was lulled by the gentle noise of the fans in the background, looking at my notes and books on the table, I glimpsed the reflection of my face, but it was not my face anymore, at least not the one I knew. It was me, but I was someone else. There was, again, this young woman in her late 20s or early 30s, with long, curled hair and dark eyes. The room was different, much smaller and with a large fan turning. There was a friendly French police officer speaking to me. He told us that we had to run away because the Gestapo had discovered our names. Then I had a more detailed flashback of the beach, our fear, and our death. This experience was strong and took me totally by surprise. One early September after that, I went to visit a friend at the seaside. For some reason I didn't take my clothes off on that occasion, and we started to walk along the waterline of the beach, chatting and laughing. The sea is shallow in that part of Italy, and the long beach is divided, from time to time, by tiny constructions of rocks, like mini piers. I was walking there, joking with my friend. I had just come back from some congresses where I had presented 2 papers and I was telling her how happy I was that they had been received so well. I felt light and enthusiastic. Suddenly, we reached one of these rocky constructions that, to be passed, required that we walk into the sea with the water reaching our ankles or shins. When I reached the farthest point of this construction, my body stopped working, I had no control over it, and my mind was filled with silent panic. I couldn't proceed. I was stuck and unable to speak. Later on, my friend told me that I was as white as a ghost. She came to me and took me slowly back to a rock nearby, where I sat down for a while. Took me slowly back to a rock nearby, where I sat down for a while. The first words I could say were, "So it's all true." Obviously, she didn't understand, and I had to explain. For a few years, I had tried to cut off the idea of reincarnation and pretend that all that had happened to me in the past didn't have any specific meaning and was nothing. That experience hit me. I think that what triggered it was the fact that I was fully dressed and not in a swimsuit. The rocks, even if protruding for only a couple of meters into the water, were enough to recall a much bigger and more frightening pier. The experience was so intense and so unexpected, so out of the blue, that I went back to pick up all my old books on reincarnation, bought more, and started reading again. These experiences have formed and directed my entire life in one way or another. I have dedicated my personal and academic research to the themes of reincarnation, symbolism, and the journeys to the other world. My PhD itself was based on the study of a medieval journey to the other world, and I started to read books about hypnotic regressions and tried techniques with some like-minded friends. I qualified as a hypnotherapist and studied more advanced techniques that can be applied in past life regressions, and for a few years now I have run a private practice of hypnotherapy in London. Although I deal with all sorts of problems that hypnotherapy can help to solve, I am happy to say that past life regressions are among the most common techniques I use with my clients. Renata Bartoli Renata's memories, which were so powerful and persistent, pushed her to dedicate her work and her life to helping others using past life regressions. She knew that her experiences were real. She vividly felt the fear and paralysis that past life traumas could cause in the present, and she is helping many people to overcome and release similar symptoms. Of course, not all regressions are the result of using hypnotic techniques. Renata experienced flashbacks and glimpses when she was near or in the water, through recurring dreams, and even in the faculty library, where she observed her face from her prior lifetime. Her subconscious mind was giving her the information and tools to heal her in the present and, additionally, to steer her toward her soul's work. Renata had the wisdom and the courage to respond to her mind's urgings. I too had to overcome old belief systems, skepticism, and left brain conditioning to dedicate my work and my life to help people in the very same way as Renata. I have been so fortunate and so blessed to find this path. Judith, in the final story of this chapter, was also a self-described, left-brained and skeptical person. Even with her doubts, she remained accepting and curious, and she was able to have a wonderfully healing and intuitive experience at a workshop. This incident helped her achieve not only the elimination of a physical symptom that had long troubled her but also a greater emotional understanding that has forever. Soulmate, this is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.